I think Hasbara is part of a public diplomacy. Every government engages in it. Canada engages in public diplomacy, U.S., Europe, etc. This is part of the functioning of government. The question is not whether you engage in it, the question is how you engage in it. Now, Israel is in a much more critical situation because it is in a Middle East which is unfolding not only with its uncertainty, but with its various gradations of risk and threat. And you've got it at this point, in terms of Israel, you've got a kind of critical mass of threat on the north, and you've got a critical mass of threat in the south, and you've got a critical mass of threat in the east.
But all the critical threats actually do good in the issue of Hasbara and presenting Israel's case.
Well, the question is if you have a situation where you have a government that speaks with a coherent and cohesive voice. Regrettably, the dynamics of a coalition governments in Israel are such that they speak sometimes not only in different voices but competing voices. And it's very difficult to get the message across when a government is not speaking with a coherent and cohesive voice, when the situation is, number one, as serious as it is, and number two, where it requires clarity and leadership in matters of public diplomacy. So I would hope that at least some of the foundational approaches to that message will be shared. In other words, there has to be at least shared appreciation of the critical mass of threat. There also has to be a shared appreciation of what, within that critical mass of threat, of what some of the opportunities that may present themselves. For example, and I think on this there is agreement within the government, and that is the importance of demilitarization, not only of Gaza, but demilitarization of the West Bank with regard to any prospective framework for peace. The second thing is the disarming of Hamas, Islamic Jihad, of the terrorist organizations. That could no longer continue to pose a threat, because let us realize that Hamas's aspirations are really part of a larger branch of radical Islam.
When the world sees Israel end the war without any demilitarization?
Well, I think that the world has to realize that Israel's request for demilitarization is the same as the world's approach, which is even more than that, with regard to ISIS. I mean, the world feels not only that ISIS must be demilitarized, but must be, at least the European coalition and international coalition that Obama wants to lead, to use their words, ISIS must be destroyed. I'm not saying that Hamas should be destroyed. I'm saying that at the very least it should be disarmed, the territory should be demilitarized, and a approach to peace has to be, yes, I've always been for a two states for two peoples solution, but I've always said a democratic, rights-protecting, rule of law Palestinian state alongside a democratic and secure Israel. The formulation of two states for two peoples, which does not make any representations regarding the importance of the state neighboring Israel being democratic, rights-protecting, rule of law, demilitarized, free of any threat, etc. That's the kind of language that I think hopefully we can get a coalition in Israel to share.